All right, hello students. Today we're moving on to lesson 13, writing division expression. So let's go and take a look at the classwork. And example one, this is write an expression showing 1 divided by 2 without the use of a division symbol. So we're going to write this without this symbol here. Well, if we kind of take a look at the model of what this would look like, of course, we would have one box here, of course, because that's the first one, or a divisor. And this is what we're breaking up. So this is all 1. Well, we want to break it up into 2 equal parts. And of course, this is our dividend. We're going to break it up into 2 equal parts, which means I'll have to cut it in half. And of course, I have one part here and a second equal part over here. Now, of course, we're drawing this, so it's not going to look perfect. But of course, that's what it should look like. And so, of course, as you can see, we're breaking it up into 2 parts. So one block kind of broken up into 2 equal parts, or 1 divided by 2. Well, what can be determined by this model, or what are we talking about? Of course, they equals the 1 divided by 2, but this is also equal to or the same as if we write it as a fraction. 1 divided by 2 is just simply 1/2. Well, 1 divided by 2, well, broken up into 2 equal parts, that's 1 part of the 2. It's kind of another way of saying it, and that's 1/2. So there we go. This is another way, or this is the way you're going to start seeing the division problems written out, using a fraction bar. The fraction bar means division. Um, and to think of a fraction is a part of a whole, or a part of a whole number. So it's the division, or a part of a whole number. All right, so let's go and kind of look at another example. Instead of actually using all numbers, now let's go ahead and write an expression using a divided by 2 without using the division symbol. So very similar to the problem we just talked about. Well, we can set it up the same way. So no matter what the a is, remember a just simply represents a number that we either don't know or we want to fill in other numbers. Whatever the a is, or the box is, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, if we want to divide it, if we're dividing it by 2, we're going to divide it up here and break it up into 2 equal parts. There you go. So that's what it represents. Of course, once again, we're dividing this up into 2 equal parts. So what can be determined from this model? Well, what can be determined from this model, very similar to what we just talked about. What they give us, the a divided by 2, is equal or the same as a fraction bar 2, or a divided by 2. So if we're kind of breaking these down, if we're kind of looking at the next step, we're kind of taking these problems here and break them down by what is it talking about. Well, when we write the division expression using the symbol, so when we write it right here using the symbol, we represent, well, what do we represent, or what is it talking about? So let's go ahead and get this out. We're talking about, I'm sorry, I got the dividend. See, I switched them when I was talking about it earlier. I do apologize. The dividend, what we're breaking up, um, I'm gonna have to draw in the division symbol because we don't have one on the keyboard. So let me just get my division symbol out real quick. What we're breaking up divided by the divisor, what we're dividing it by. Remember, the dividend is what we're breaking up. I do apologize. I said it backwards on the other one. And the divisor is how many we're breaking it up into, or what is the equal parts. So if we look at this also kind of in fractional form, let's go and get another text box here. We're talking about the same things. Well, it's the same thing. The dividend comes on top, and the divisor comes on bottom. For some reason, my symbol broke up or disappeared. I'll write it back in there in just a minute. So the dividend, and then we have the fraction bar divided by, of course, the same thing as with the symbol, the divisor. So the dividend always comes first, whether we're talking about the symbol or the fraction bar, and the divisor always comes second, whether we're talking about Let me draw that in there again. Whether we're talking about the fraction bar or talking about the division symbol. All right, so go ahead and stop this video. Go and move on to the next one. We're going to go through some examples together to help hopefully understand this concept a little further. All right, hello students. Now we're going to go over some exercises together. So it says write each expression two ways using the division symbol and as a fraction. So if you want to go ahead and try these on your own to see if you understand this concept, go ahead and give these a try. Pause the video, try them, and of course go to where I give you the answers. All right, so if we look at the first one, A, it says 12 divided by 4. So first I'm going to write it first as a symbol and then as a fraction. So of course we have 12 with the division symbol, 12 divided by 4. And of course this is equal to 12 divided by, or 12 fraction bar 4, if you want to say it like that. This just simply says 12 divided by 4. There you go. That's it. That's all they're asking us to do. So the next one, letter B, 3 divided by 5. So of course we have 3 divided by 5, which of course is equal to the fraction bar 3, fraction bar 5. So here's written as a symbol, here's written as a fraction. Even when they give us letters, same thing. A divided by, that's what the symbol means. The symbol means divided by 4. In math, we like to just simplify things by writing symbols. And then, of course, A divided by 4. So in this one, we get even simpler. If you want to think about it, I guess, as the division sign, remember there's dot, dot. Well, these kind of represents the dots. This is the line for the division, and then these are the dots above it. The A goes on top, and the 4 goes below. Another way to kind of help you remember. The quotient of 6 and M, so quotient of 6 and M, well, whenever they give us to you the answer to a division problem, the first number or first symbol comes first, the second symbol comes second, and of course the same thing. 6, we read this as a fraction, 6 divided by M. We always read top to bottom. So there you go. All right, if you look, if we continue to go, to the next part, this is kind of the same thing, but now we're going to add some other things to it, some other operations. So I'm going to go over the first one, of course, with you. I'm going to go over all of them with you, but if you want to pause it after the first one and then go to the next and then try it on your own, please do. Otherwise, let's go ahead and take a look at E. It says 7 divided by the quantity x plus y. Well, this word quantity right here kind of means the sum, which means we have to do this part first. We actually have to take care of the addition problem before we can actually do the division. So if we kind of write it first with symbols, so it'll be 7 divided by, and of course we can just simply write this out, x plus y. But because we have to do the x plus y first, we have to use parentheses. There we go. Now, if we're going to write this as a fraction bar, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. Well, remember the division symbol is where the fraction bars goes. So we cut it right here. The 7 goes on top, and this whole part goes on the bottom. So 7 divided by, and then on the bottom we get x plus y, excuse me. A lot of people forget that, remember, we have to take care of the addition first. So both of these have to go on the bottom. Now you can put the parentheses down here if you want to. You don't need to, but it doesn't hurt if you do. Okay, so remember, this division symbol shows us where the fraction bar needs to go, which means everything to the left goes on top, everything to the right goes on bottom, especially if it's in parentheses, excuse me. So that one that can be a little complicated. That's why I wanted to go over it with you. So if you want to give these a try below, go ahead and try them. Otherwise, go and just continue going through these with me. Y divided by the quantity. Here we go again. Quantity means I have to do this first. So y divided by, and of course it says x minus 11. See, I like to just simply do this and then go, okay, do these have to be together? Quantity means yes. So I go ahead and I put the fraction bar. I put the parentheses, excuse me. So now I want to write it as a fraction bar. So this cuts it right here. If it's in parentheses, means everything has to go on the bottom. So y fraction bar x minus 11. Now this one I'm not going to put parentheses because you don't have to, because the fraction bar right here, since all of it's underneath it, implies that it needs to be done first. All right, so there you go. So let's go move on to the next one. Next one says the sum of the quantities. So now we have to add this together before we divide by 4. So now this is kind of going the opposite way, where we have to add this part together before we divide by 4. Now, a lot of people make this mistake. Remember, order of operation, division has to come first. So this has to go inside parentheses. All right. So now it's kind of the same thing as above here. Since these were after the division sign, all of this had to go underneath. Since this is before, all of that has to go on top. So h plus 3 goes on top of the fraction bar over 4. Once again, you could put in parentheses if you wanted to, but it's not necessary, or you don't have to. All right, let's go ahead and go over the last one. The quotient of the quantity, here we go, quantity of these two. So we have to kind of look at, this is like parentheses here, and then the quotient of this answer and m. So once again, first we have to do k minus 10. So put that in parentheses. And then we're going to find the quotient of the quantity of this and m. So divided by m. So that's why if you gave this a try, hopefully you're checking it out to see if you did it correctly. If not, make sure you make the change. So like before, this all comes first, and it's all in parentheses. So all of this goes on top of the fraction bar, and then of course the m. All right, so if you're struggling with this, or just kind of not, this one is a little complicated using the parentheses. So if you're struggling with this, please raise your hand. We'll come by and I can talk about it with you again. Otherwise, go ahead and stop the video and go ahead and move on to the assignment.